Welcome back to the Willis Podcast. How you guys doing, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, we are back. We here. We live. We fresh. We in the place. We're here. We at the altar. How y'all guys doing? I love it, guys. When you tune in, I love and appreciate when you guys come into the room and have fun with me because you know we're gonna have a hell of a show tonight. It's called the Universal Order Show, and we ain't gonna take too long to jump in it. But I gotta let you know something about Universal Order. See, as above, so below. It says it in Ecclesiastes and what you call it, the basic instructions before leaving Earth. They call it the Bible, written by a homosexual, gay, black man that killed his mother, and his lover was a male pale complected man of Georgia Buckingham. We're talking about King James, but how is that for a interrogator for y'all? How about that? God. Yeah, Queen James. Yeah, he's quite the sycophant, and call him the colonizing Canaanizer. He was black too. Yeah, colonizer, Canaanized the Bible. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he did all of that. Whole lot of atrocious acts of old Queen James. But anyway, yeah, let's get to some whip moments, man. Yeah, we got to get to them. So anyway, the first whip moment, because this is a Universal Order show. First whip moment is these are the signs of the times. If y'all look at the last show, I introduced this book to you. A lot of people don't have this in your you don't have this in your archive, but I mean, I think you should. Signs of the times. Signs of the times. Boy, I tell you. But it's so much that I really delve into. Even with let's go with this, the cross, where they fashioned the unk after. Well, the the cross was fashioned after the unk. The unk means life, and the actual cross means death. Ain't that some signs of the times, right? That's why you see the unk all around me. Life, living, the pursuit of loving and happiness and appreciating for, what we as the primordial superhumans brought to the table. The sapient sapiens. It's like I like to call us. Because these signs, boy, I tell you. Then you got look at here. Heaven and hell. Heaven and hell. Heaven and hell. But what you're not realizing is will your heart be as light as a feather when it comes for your time of judgment? Do you regret anything? Do you have regrets? How heavy is your heart? What are the things that you should have done, could have done, and would have done right that you did wrong, but you steady kept doing the wrong thing? Oh goodness, I got some messages here. What's going on over here? Hold on, people. Oh, they just activity. Okay, no worries. Okay. All right, heaven and hell. Think about it. This is not a whip moment. This is just it's a discussion that you got to have within yourself. We actually live in heaven and hell in our minds right here to this very day. That's where your heaven and hell really exist at mentally. Right there. Heaven and hell. The way you think, the way you talk to yourself, the way you orchestrate, how you move about heaven and hell. Some people live in hell because they can't stop doing hellacious things. But what if it's time when you have to cross over and you have all of these regrets, all of the choices, everything that you could have made a correct, valiant decision, you chose not to say nothing, do nothing, or even act as it's never even existed. It's called cognitive dissonance. Just I act like it just didn't exist. Kind of like how white people do today. They always act like, well, we're the purveyors of civilization and all those things. No, you're not. You are the colonizer and destroyer of all things before you. That's got to be a hell of a track record. But we're not always talking about them. We're talking about who set the stage. A lot of people love claiming, these old dynastic apparatuses that you attach yourself to, and you don't even know the actual origins of these places because you only believe in the fairy tales. In the conglomerate of it all, yeah, black people created every single fabric of communication, civilization, the way we operate. Yeah, that was from our way of just moving about and existing. You see how royal I am even now, as a man, as a being, as a specimen, as a wonderful being. You know, I always get ridiculed a lot, especially on Facebook, because they're allowed to call me all kinds of. I get called a crackhead. Clean as I look, I get called a crackhead. I'm healthy, wonderful looking, handsome looking guy, and get called a crackhead. Or how about what he says is satire, satire. But see, this is what you call the creation of satire and renaming, reclassifying, re-identifying, reanalyzing, revisualizing, the functioning vocabulary, formalities of our thoughts and dictates our reactions to the world around us. And you talk about what who orchestrates these type of creations because you want to feel relevant in today's society. We're talking about these uh, uh, people that are under such an illusion. Now, a lot of people like to talk about the illusion that you didn't in things that you had no part in office. Let me explain. Where's my damn books? Yeah, okay, we got the right. Let me get to the books. Let me get to the books. Let me get to all right. Oh damn. Where is it? Where are you, buddy? I want to get this one. And I want to get ancient deities, but that'll be for another night. Where's my other book? Where are you, buddy? Give me a second. I'm trying to find something very thorough. A very good book. I may have to go on the shelf outside to find it, but I will be sharing that book tonight. Most definitely, I will. Because I think a lot of us don't even understand everything that you do. And the reason why I got this book out right here is the birth of a white nation, the invention of white people, and its relevance today. See that? This is written by Jacqueline Badalora. Give me a few ticks. I'll be back to share more about this book. Let me play some music. I'll be right back. I just got to go find that specific book because it ties so heavily into the show. So I'm going to give you something nice to listen to. You know what I'm saying? Give me a second. I'll be right back. Hold tight. I'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Be right back. I'm back. Full fledged. I'm back. We got some jewels for you tonight. First of all, we got volume 1. I got all volumes as well as the Black Athena Writes Back. But I should have started with this. We got Martin Brunell tonight, the Black Athena. You think I didn't have you on this too? Turn this volume down a little bit. All right. Got some in the chat. Oh, okay, okay. I see some folks. All right. Salute, salute, Kumar. Salute to you, homie. All right, check it out. Black Athena, where the Greek civilization started. We're gonna get into that a little bit. Then we got the chosen people of the caucus. Ties right into these things right here by Michael Bradley and a foreword by Dr. John Henry Clark. Jewish origins, delusions, deception, and historical roles in the slave trade, genocide, and cultural colonization. The chosen people of the caucus is a doozy. But what feeds into everything that I was trying to explain to you before is this book right here. Get this book. See the name? Dr. Susan Kumar Das. It's true too. Black people actually did invent everything, and we're going to get into this right now. What do you want to know? A short guide is acoustics, adhesives, aerodynamics, agriculture, alchemy, algebra, anatomy, anthropology, antibiotics, aqueducts, arborology, horticulture, botany, archaeology, archery, architecture, aromatherapy, art, astrology, astronomy, biology, boats, books, botany, brain surgery, capitalism, cats, cattle, cement, ceramics, ceremony, chemistry, chocolate, cities, city planning, civics, civilization, clothing, codes, concept halls, corn, cuisine, culture, currency, cutting tools, democracy, dogs, donkeys, drain, drama, drums, economics, education. So you understand Black people absolutely invented everything. It exudes from the actual creators. I hope you understand these things. I can keep going, but I can just show you the short guide of what we did everything. Here you go. Everything known to man. Everything known to mankind. Well, I tell you. You want more? Spices, sports, status, stonemasonry, style, substance, surgery, swords, symbolism, tactics, technology, temples, theater, time, tomb, toilets, tools, trade, tradition, traffic lights, transportation, turkeys, walls, wars, weapons, wheels, woodwork, writing utensils, and zoology. What to do now? Short summaries of deep history, agriculture, animal breeding, agriculture, art, astronomy. What did we do? Everything before you can even crawl out of a cave. To all you pale racists. Business and trade, cash and currency, ceramics, clothing, dance, economics, healthcare, housing, jewelry, mail, mathematics, medicine, metalwork, mining, music, pottery, science, shoes, spoken language, sports and technology, written language, the deep history, the original history of all our studies. History is best qualified to reward our research. When we see that we've got problems, we all have to do some examining in historic methods used all over the world by others who have problems similar to yours. And once you see how they got theirs straight, then you knew how to get your shit straight. 2. That's a quote by Malcolm X, mind you, the brilliant one. The foundation of modern society. From transportation to communication technology, it has been a modern invention and didn't benefit greatly from the creative genius and contributions of Black people. Countless times, Black genius was in the country only salvation. With other, my favorite, Granville Woods' innovation of train technology, born from years of observation and experience working with them hands on this country, could not have grown through a massive network of railways which saved the U.S. from falling apart from its Great Depression. Yes, that's Granville T. Woods, ladies and gentlemen. Let me turn this music down a little bit. I feel like I'm talking too loud. All right, that's better. Okay. But dig this. George Washington Carver saved the South after the Civil War. Had it not been for him, the whole South could have become a wasteland, like a dust bowl of created in canvas. Had it not been for the slave, one of most teachings, future first President George Washington had to inoculate against smallpox. Revolutionary War would have been a total defeat. There would be no United States of America. Similarly, hip-hop had saved the American economy from Reaganomics wrecking it. Check this out. This is the deep history. What about the convenience that we count on? Black science had a heavy role in developing every type of phone we've known, from the original, from the most modern. Same with computers, same with any advanced technology, from even in the light bulb, wouldn't exist without black folks involved. Both in its American reemergence and its origins of ancient times. Black genius is so desperate and it's so desirable in the science and tech fields that the movie Hidden Figures could even been seen as a recruiting film from NASA. From the first industries of advance in city planning and the first designs, modern Western civilization can be traced back to the ancestors of those who now suffer from it most. Even in the earliest designs of this country, government weren't inspired by Europeans, but by us, the Black American Indians, Confederacy of the Iroquois, and perhaps Morocco, one of the first foreign powers to recognize in this country, allowing the Americans to trade with slaves without their interference. These influences produced what are called the American experiment. Do you understand? You get it? Come on, let's go. The Invincible Man in Deep Debt, and the classic work, The Invincible Man, Ralph Ellison writes, a deep depth Rome and England to the ancient Egyptians. Ellison's continuous action, if the men were thinking and talking of one enormous antiquity, in the circle of intelligence that reached through all thinkers, poets, inventors, and wist men and women, English, German, Celts, Aryans. Ninevite, Cop, and would lead them back to the first geometer, bard, mason, carpenter, planter, shepherd, and ultimately back to the first Negro who, with most health and better perceptions, gave a shriller sound of name from the thing he saw and dealt with. In other words, black people invented everything. 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 Dr. King, in his most famous speech, not only spoke of his dreams in the future, but the debt that America owed to its disenfranchisement of black masses, and a bad check that had been offered thus far. Today, the fight of reparations in America is well summoned by Randall Robinson's book, The Debt, What America Owes to Blacks. In 2016, the United Nations panel declared that the United States owes reparations to American descendants of slavery and compensation for the legacy of colonial history, enslavement, racial subordination, segregation, racial terrorism, racial inequalities. United Nations also prescribed 10-year period to end white supremacy from 2014 to 2024. And you see what they chose. They chose Trump. They chose Stephen Miller. They chose Project 2025, but they were supposed to say, hey, the United States said, hey, that's up. That whole game is a done deal. It says it right here. Let me tell you something. In 1993, a detailed study was conducted in Harper's Magazine, which estimated the total owed in approximately $97 trillion. This figure was calculated on 222,505,049 hours of forced labor between 1619 and 1865, compounded a 6% interest. Recent studies remain that the trillions of dollars without facing in the exponential gains only possible throughout land holdings and access to liquid wealth. So this is, again, Black America. You guys on borrowed time and you on borrowed land. I hope you completely understand. Let me continue to read. The original history of the timeless, indeed, the global tradition of invention of innovation. You see, its Black culture is much more older than the 1800s. You dig? How old? Let's look into something like the American dust broom. It is still nearly the same model and was introduced during slavery a few hundred years ago. Yet a dust broom is based on an African design and among indigenous people around the world in thousands of years. Do you see what we're going here? Everything we know has a antecedent meaning. There's truly nothing new under the sun. Do you understand? Black people invented truly everything that you can possibly use to clean, think, live, breathe. Black history is the deepest of the deep history. The kind of history you deserve to know. All the world deserves to know. Not just us, the world deserves to know who we are and to know that we cannot be cosplayed, copied, or codified anymore. We are free. We are anew. We are upon arrival. To this day and any possible day forth, that's who we are. The true champion of these lands. Listen. The original people, the document of the role of the original people and their dark-skinned descendants throughout the world and their roles of inventing the world as we know it today. Global. This book is full of things that Black people invented at some point in time, somewhere on the planet, things you should have known about. Not just things like a vacuum cleaner, although they are pretty important too, because we understand that we shed and we have dust particles. And we dust and we keep those dust particles sucked away to keep cleanliness out. But some people, they even have animals and everything that they eat off the same table that they have the animals eating on. It's quite disgusting and despicable. But anyway, what does Black American mean? Every Black man under the sun are brothers. We don't care if he lives in America, Asia, Africa, or the Isles of the Pacific or the Gulf. That was from Elijah Muhammad. But in this book, we expand the meaning of Black in the global and cultural identity. You know, most Native Americans are some African descendants. See, this book is written properly because they're showing you how they're using terminology in the book, how Black Americans or Native Americans are actually the true Mexicans. It breaks about this. So yes, the ancestors of Native Americans were Black. So many Mexicans are still dark-skinned with coarse hair. People from Alaska, people from the Caribs should know that the Indians were not pale-skinned until conquerors came. Not even in Alaska. In the United States, Indian children not only had to cut their and change their names, forgetting their language and traditions, they also were encouraged to marry white and lighter skinned people so that their children would be born more socially acceptable. And this happened everywhere in the world where white colonization went. Colonialism went. Thus, while many of the world's people, especially the poorest or the most isolated in the country, are Black, that's why I'm from Pensacola, Florida. That's why you see the indigenous from the Americas. But check this out as well. This is also the case of many Blacks, including here, not so long ago. Yet Black is the global identity because it refers to original people who were and are black people. I hope you guys understand this and you really, it's sinking into you, because when I tell you we invented everything, we invented even these new races. We invented them too. They just don't know it, but we invented you too. So anywhere from, I mean, we could just keep going, but the black people invented transportation. We invented, anything you can ask, any question, anything you want to think about. Yeah, we invented style and flair, the original Flavor Squad. You know what I'm saying? And then you got the original cloak talk, the origins of clothing, and the first footwear. You know what I'm saying? So migraines, tumors, and disease causing demons. Let's check this out. Only later in Egyptian history where Ebers papyrus, where you find the text full incantations. Check this out: incantations and ritual practices meant to turn away diseases causing demons, along with other superstitions. It does, however, contain some of the earliest descriptions of mixed grain and tumors, but it is clear that by the time scientific thinking had been given away to a religious symbolism, that is, if you don't know what the symbols meant, you wouldn't understand how to apply the treatment. Anesthetic bandages and spider webs. You see what I'm saying? Our ancestors had many ways to close wounds. In Ebers papyrus describes the Egyptian fire drill using, elimination tumors. Yet the causation or the characterization of the wounds wasn't isolated knowledge. The number of Asian tribes igniting in a mixed salt pepper of the sulfur and upon and open wounds and cauterizing them. Healers in Africa, including ancient Egypt, India, South America, and termites, leeches, siafuents, scarab beetles, to close wounds without stitches. Another indigenous practice of closing wounds involved the use of spider webs. Spider silks is known for both a great strength and an infection fighting properties, and it's still used in many black and brown communities still today with natural band-aids. In 2016, MSNBC reported scientists were looking into using spider webs as its most effective method for treating torn ACL ligaments and knee injuries. So ancient antibiotics, we got prehistoric needles, bone settling, amputations, and prosthetics. So all of these things are not new, they're old. So I hope you understand, when the world was black, they think they created, in the white mind, they think that these things is something of an invention of theirs, and it's not. These are old, rehashed inventions, and they put their names on top of them. So understand the difference. Let's get to the next book moment. The death ode to humanity. Yeah, the problem is, when you go around the world plagiarizing things, lying, and acting as if racism was over and slavery was over, as if we don't have an industrial complex that's really capturing and murdering and isolating and destroying indigenous peoples of this land. You have to understand how to really wrestle with those notions in that perspective, because you have to know that there's something wrong in these equations and in these spaces. It's something specifically wrong with these things. They're not good. So let's get to the next moment. Who has to pay? Well, we know who has to pay: the robbers, the thieves, and the people that perpetually take things. Because you got to understand, some people don't care to pay. They just want. They think they have the privilege and the rights to just take and not pay, and that puts you in a mental capacity mind state of where you practice in the highest of high levels of cognitive dissonance, simply because you know no better. Your parents raised you that way. And this is not just whites. This is people that buy into that, supremacy ideology. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people just think they're better than other people, and they don't even have the same acumen as even a person of just the appreciation of being alive. and that comes from a decent household that understand morals, ethics, and values. But you take rich people that think they have morals, ethics, and values, and they don't. They are uh, some people are just dumpster fire. They just dumpster juice. Those type of things. All right, let's get to the next real moment. I don't want to keep. I want to. I don't. I'm not interested in tearing people down, but I got to tell the truth. Global reframes of history. See, when you reframe global history, when you start practicing overlaying, reclassifying, forcing people out because they didn't do what you say, annihilating Aboriginal classes of people, this is kind of your absolute behavior. The Iceman incarnate. Phew, boy. See, the end of Eden. At the end of the last ice age, major events transpired, which have had direct bearing on true Hebrew history and distinct from Jewish myth. Western history is general and even biblical interpretations. So far, the term Ice Age has been used rather blithely without a definition or explanation of what it meant. The following digression will add greater insight to our discussion of Hebrew origins and also suggest great geological changes in Africa and surprisingly recent past, which may have molded the development of ancient Egyptian culture and hint at a real location of Eden. Like so many things in Western science, the Ice Ages were proposed to explain one fairly simple observation, and its explanation turned out to be more complex, puzzling than the original problem. The problem was the so-called erratic boulders of Europe and elsewhere between 1800 and 1840s. Europe geologists had noted the existence of many erratic boulders. There were huge rocks and boulders that were presently many miles from the rock formations to which they belong. Some of the boulders weighed 10,000 tons and more were perched high up in a mountainside, in which it's difficult to imagine anything that could have moved them. Georges Cuvier, 1768 to 1832, a brilliant French zoologist and geographer, had proposed a theory of vast encyclical Earth catastrophes that occurred in the past and might happen again in the future. His idea, revolutions of the globe, supposed that because of huge geographical upheavals including volcanoes and earthquakes, the oceans would sometimes sweep over continents with huge waves of translations, he called them, that would carry even 10,000-ton boulders from their origins and leave them beach high and dry many miles, even hundreds of miles away. Much geographical and fossil evidence argues the great and relevant abrupt changes. But the problem of Cuvier's idea of prehistoric catastrophes was that he was French and had been a respected scientist under Napoleon's regime. The British, however, had just won the Battle of Waterloo. Although they might seem to be absurd and non-sequitur statement, it is not. The British had recently obtained military dominance of Europe after defeating Napoleon. They did not like revolutions and catastrophes of any kind, particularly not after Napoleon so dramatically changed the European society. In their science sought theories that were more in accordance with English temperaments. If there had been changes of all, the English soul cried for a slow, dignified process of change. So sudden revolutions. Sir Charles Lyell, 1797 to 1875, such match a promote to popularize a theory called unimilitarization, which opposed cultures catastrophism. Catastrophism. The dogma of uninformed militarism argued that no geological forces operate in the past that we did not see in action today. Therefore, we do not witness catastrophes of global scope today. Such catastrophes could not have happened in the past. Now, that's just pure goddamn ignorance, but this is how these people thought, and that's how they think. That's what they were about. So now, it is to be said that right away in the doctrine of ununiform militarism, militarism was never strictly speaking in proper scientific theory. However, much evidence from the past geological strategy argues against the vehemently. Arguments against this vehemently. It was more of a article of faith and a manifesto of British thinking rather than anything else because of the British were simply tired and horrified by the social upheaval wrought of Napoleon and his wars. They were determined not to have anything to do with his upheavals of any sort in society, science, the past, or the future. When Wellington was finally able to defeat Napoleon in Waterloo, the British military force became supreme in Europe. The British scientific notions became dominant, and that's where everything became dumb. See, we're talking about people, and I hate to be so hard because I hate to be so hard on so many people that actually absolutely do know better today. But I promise you, every time I go on Facebook and I tell anything about actual European history, I even witness the names about Howard Zinn. He'll tell you that when the Europeans came to America, they actually ate people and continued to eat people. They even ate their family members and wanted to kill their wives because, well, unalive their wives, allegedly, wanted to unalive their wives simply because of a few reasons. They were hungry and lazy. And they were slaves. Chosen people of the caucus. These people set up a very awful legacy for their people, simply because you do have some brilliant, magnificent minds of European persuasion or African or Black, Australian, American, globally, Russian. We got brilliant people globally from China, from everywhere globally. But the thing is, you wouldn't have the ability to even think if it wasn't for your actual fathers. And those are the Aboriginal people of those lands. If you have those specific phenotypes, what problem could you absolutely possibility have with who gave you life? What gave you the audacity to have a brain to think and gave you the tools and the concepts and answers in order to go forward and do so? See, the problem is people like to take so much from people and don't want to add value back into them because they want to feel like the only one that knows or the only purveyor. Life doesn't work that way. It never have. It never could. And when it does, it begins and ends in travesty and catastrophe. What I'm trying to help you understand is we have a big future ahead of us. I know some of you don't think, but this is a changing of ages. There are going to be a lot of changes. There will be more catastrophes. There will be more things that we're going to have to deal with because we're going to have the ability to adjust if we have the opportunity. But we must give ourselves the opportunity with proper leadership. We got to get a lot of people out of Congress. These people are not serious. They don't take themselves seriously because they don't have a brain to think. They think about too much of themselves and not a nation of people. They're thinking about how to survive themselves. So where they put in their survival and taking a position to be in a position that they're supposed to put your survival above their survival, we have a real problem. That means these people ain't willing to go down with the ship. That's why they need to go somewhere more appropriate, like prison, because they're thieves. And what you're doing is you're lying and you're perpetuating the places that you come from for your selfish specific gains with lobbyists and people that have been doing these type of atrocious things for quite some time. You don't know justice because you don't participate in trying to establish justice. Big difference. So we have to do a better job, and I always ask the younger people, the young brethren and the young sisters, and the young people globally to do one thing for yourself. If this world is yours, take charge of it. Hey, you got people out here like me. I will help you. I will coach you. I think you younger folks should run for Congress. I think it's your country. I'm not like the Al Sharptons of the world that won't give you the tools because he won't take his ugly skeletal looking ass on stage all day, allegedly. But anyway, shout outs to Al for being an old warrior, but it's time for you to get off TV. Your neighbors are all don't look like you. You rich, and you an agent, and you got a lot of agents out here, and you got a lot of people that are only perpetuating for themselves. So as soon as a Black American perpetuates for ourselves, we're wrong. As soon as we delineate, we're wrong. That's a problem. As soon as we say, you know what? I see everybody looking out for them and their kind. You know what? It's time for us to do the same. And it's a lot of us. We got about 45 million strong. So it's time to regroup, renew, re-understand, and rethink this. We got relationships. We got global relationships with people that love us now. We could do business with China, Bangladesh, India. We could do business all over the world. We don't need nobody's permission. This is a globe. So once people start understanding who are the true purveyors of how to operate in a global economy with truth, justice, reciprocity, honor, making sure the exchange is profitable and possible and rewarding for both parties. We don't need to go through anybody's channels. Now we can go direct. We can create our own tables, build our own tables, and we can actually create our own platforms. But it does take relationships with people. You have to treat people right. You have to have dignity. You have to have respect. You have to have some gumption about yourself. You really have to be about your business. And I think we're starting to understand that because we are becoming a very serious people. And we know it. It's time to step up to the table. It's time to step up to the table to become a very serious, respected people around the globe. That's the goal. That's what we got to do. We got to become a very serious people, a very respected, a very organized, and a very business-minded people globally. That's the goal. That's what we got to get to. Let me get to the next what moment. Next what moment is some people are just not accountable and don't want to be. Some people are just not accountable and they don't want to be. So you already know the kind of people that I'm talking about. The ones that associate themselves with, only their self gain, only their self preservation. So now when we look up and we start practicing group self-preservation, that puts us in a higher tier. That means we're rotating our money together. That means we're at least, we're practicing some group economics. That means we're at least treating each other with some dignity and respect. You got to start somewhere, but it starts with treating each other and treating people globally with dignity and respect, but also circling our wagons and codifying our elements. We have to do a good job of that because we can't allow people to no longer suck up and capitulate to try to absorb our resources, because that was the name of the game from day one. That's what put us in a predicament that we are in currently, is whites with their mediocre white American and their mediocre perspective, and their way of thinking is so mediocre and tied down to what Tariq Nash, he says, I'm white and I say so. Yeah, that's what they do. They just create things and you're supposed to abide because they I guess think they're like honorary sheriffs and I guess diplomats too. It's real weird, but I think America that shows, and also on Fox News, and also with the skewed, ideology of people. They know specifically how they were carrying it on, what they were doing, and how they were affecting, this country. So when you get to see the nasty, vile comments that I receive, it's like, oh, these people do this shit on purpose. They do this deliberately. So it's gaslighting, and I think a lot of white Americans or a lot of people that associate with a specific white supremacist ideology, these people are like children. They're not serious people. They're real unadult like, and that's why they have these lash out Tourette syndrome episodes. And I just laugh. You got to laugh at this because these are learning, teachable moments for everybody. I'm not saying all, because I like I say, I always salute to my fellow European Americans, my brothers in arms, people that have a strong intellectual prowess about themselves, because that's who you want to deal with. What do you think about, we supposed to create this type of war where all blacks are against all whites or pale complected people? No, we're a human apparatus that need to function with each other. We all like to travel. We all like to visit each other's lands and spaces. We all would want to act civilized and be diplomatic and treat each other with some dignity and respect and honor, because that's the way of the world. But due to the fact that America has been this awful experiment that needs to be regrouped, revamped, reorganized, and restructured under the proper tutelage, because we know who have come here. These disassociated people have come here and ran this country, and they don't even believing that they are just American. We don't even have the complexity to do such. So it's extremely irritating to hear people that think they have more stake in a place than you do, and that's your specific homeland. That's your stake of claim. Your skin color is where you are from specifically, and you are the specific one that created this thing called race and don't want to be called out for where you specifically are and the atrocities and things that you have done. Like, you cannot keep thinking you can have it both ways when everybody see your ways but you. Jeez. The dominant society, it just was found out today that you are no longer leading in births, because the white ladies are having babies by black man and brown man and every other kind of man. The reason why they are doing this because of the lack of empathy, the lack of sympathy, the lack of vision from our European counterpart, the European male. It finds every way to be sympathetic to sycophants. Do you know how many white women are getting divorced right now simply because of the Epstein files, the involvement, the lack of even understanding from their husbands, the lack of empathy from their husbands, the lack of protection, the lack of even wanting to protect their wives. Oh, the world is on fire. I'm going to play golf. The world is. We got people coming to steal us. Just pay them. They'll get away. Just give them some money. Who cares? Just completely stuck into a web of your own devices. That's. And I'm not talking about all. I know some good brothers out here. Get some good white homies and good white men out there that really do have a true, valiant love for their family, and they do have compassion. So everything does go both ways, but for the most part, that's why there's a lot of divorced households, because the white woman is even into things like degrading her counterpart because she has a hankering for something else. Just saying, the world is becoming more strange because shit, because people are becoming less moral. That's what I think it is. I think people are losing their grip on humanity because of the desensitizing of us as a global race of people, the desensitizing of humanity, the desensitizing of feelings and things that actually sustain us. You know, uh, things that sustain us as a culture, as a people with interchangeable relationships, is you have to have moral fiber and you have to practice being civilized. It's a practice. It's not something that you learn and you can just throw away and just give up on because you got the ideology of it. No, it's a continuous practice. Just like when you continuously practice to better yourself as a being, you should always continue to practice a high level of being civil to people. Personally, on these platforms, I got to do a better job myself. So, but I don't ever want to allow myself to drift into, dark spaces to where I can't see the light or distribute light, because I think that's the biggest duty that we want to do is distribute light, teach good lessons, and have great relationships and understanding and keep growing. That's the show tonight. I appreciate you and I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And let me see if I got a couple of more whip moments, which I did, but I think that I covered a lot of them. Because the one thing I did want to say is, to be honest with you, I got a couple more things to say. Black people have a very, very long memory because it's painful. So we associate understanding things to a whole nother degree because it hits different, to be quite honest with you. See, the problem with the United States has amnesia. So when you have amnesia and when you got black folks, which are the primordial Americans, the original Americans, we can tally everything that's been done from a very deeper level of understanding, vice a shallow, more contemporary, modern understanding, which is a complete fallacy. You understand? That's a complete fallacy. So America has to, these things are recorded and they're out here, they're in the archives. It's just that it moves, the trash moves so fast that it leaves some things in the very near past. Shit just happened last week, a couple of weeks ago, but that's not long ago. That's very recent. So the last what moment is, you have to understand the one thing about universal law. That's for America and all other nations that agree with the dirt that America did. Universal law is divine. You understand? Universal law is a divine apparatus. It's divine. So with universal law, understand that the order of all of us, all of the things that the misinterpretation, the things that you do not understand, all order will be restored. So you can make laws. You have been given things to govern society, no matter who is in charge. Problem is, some advantages have been taking place for a lot of years. The healing had never and was never meant to settle in, but the healing must come at a later date, because what has to take place will be and continue to be a little painful, but we have to get through it. We have to be strong, and we have to rely on the understanding that we, as a species of people, are very resilient. We got to practice that. We got to formulate a better means of relationships, a better means of operations, better means of communication, and also a better way of exchanging love and appreciation. That's the show tonight, for real this time. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning into the Will This podcast. It has been a great night for me and you. Thank you so much. Hope you learned something. I hope I was able to put a little paint where it ain't. So check it out. Say it with me. It's a favorite part of the show, you know. The will is yours. Keep that in mind. Be at peace with yourself. Keep learning more. Keep building and keep internalizing your proper perspective of who you are and how you get down. We love you over here, though. So